Alrighty, fantastic. So today we're going to be talking about the APA 7th edition, citations and formatting. So in October, APA came out with a new manual. They've been using their 6th manual for a long time now. I believe it came out in like 2006, so it was about 15 years. And they debuted this new manual. And I do believe a bunch of the changes and updates are actually making it more user-friendly, more usable, and people seem generally happy with what's been updated and the changes that have been integrated. So we're really going to be focusing on the notable changes today. And there's a lot that is in the manual. It's very, very detailed, prescriptive. So you're going to really need to look if you really want to delve into a specialized citation or any sort of super specific question. We recommend Purdue OWL Writing Lab or apastyle.apa.org. I left OR open because our hope as a library is that APA will start selling us an ebook version of this text. We have physical manuals at our physical libraries, but we do not have an online version yet because one hasn't been available that's able to be purchased by big libraries. As soon as we're able to purchase this online manual, we will be adding this to our collection, and I will make sure and spread that widely. My name is Lindsay Wharton, and I am the Extended Campus and Distance Services Librarian. I am also the subject librarian for the College of Social Work. So I've been working with social work faculty and students and the staff to really just support the information needs, the research needs, and sort of like general information literacy support. I'm here if you would like to have a consultation to talk about a paper, if you're having trouble finding sources, specifically peer-reviewed sources. Navigating databases can be very difficult, and having a librarian as a partner can really alleviate the stress of that process. So I highly suggest students reach out to me, use me as a resource. One of my favorite parts of my job is working with the social work students. And I want to thank Jennifer for setting up these workshops. We've worked together for years now in offering citation workshops every semester, usually several times throughout the semester, as well as other workshops to support the research and the work that's going on in the College of Social Work. So we're going to start out and go right into it. What are some of the big APA 7 changes? There is flexibility in fonts. Yay! Now, before you could only use Arial Times New Roman. Now you can use Calibri or Lucida Sans or Georgia. So it still can't be like Comic Sans or anything crazy, but there's a little more flexibility there. No more running head. So the manual is very specific that a running head will be used for a paper or a manuscript that is being submitted for publication. But for student papers, there is no need to put a running head at all. This was always something that I think people found somewhat frustrating, having to go into the formatting and add this to their paper. No longer need to worry about that. If you are submitting a paper to a journal, you will need to include a running head, but only in sort of like the professional realm of writing. The title page changes for students. There is no longer a need to have a title page. Once again, for the running head and the title page, these are things that we highly suggest you speak to your instructors about. Some instructors are still following the APA 6 guidelines, and so you want to make sure that you're following whatever your instructor is asking you to do. But the title page was something else that had seemed a little bit extraneous for papers in the past, and so the new manual says it's no longer necessary for student papers. When you're doing your citation page, there is no more need to put retrieved from with the database. Instead, you'll just put the URL to make it just sort of flow a little bit better and making your citations a little less wordy. You just need to put the DOI URL instead of DOI:URL. Once again, just pretty much saying you don't need to say this is the DOI, because if you have the DOI URL, which is used for the majority of peer-reviewed articles, it's going to be pretty apparent that that's already what it is. No more publisher location with books. I actually just saw somebody on Twitter like kind of writing a sad tweet that now students won't know all of this sort of random publisher locations that we've been having to include in our citations for all these years. But now you'll just put the publisher and no longer need to put actually where that publisher is located. And it used to be if there were 5 or more authors, you shorten the in-text citation, and now it is 3 or more authors. So that is once again going to mean a little more abbreviation, a little more succinctness, and so making the citation and formatting process a little bit easier. And yes, I got a question, will I be able to get a copy of the PowerPoint? Yes, I'll definitely make my slides available as well as the recording. And the volume went out again. Oh, sorry about that, Keisha. I'm not sure what's going on with the volume, but I will be having the recording available. So really quickly, we're going to be talking about, so when should I cite things? It's kind of the very first basic questions of when do you really need to include a citation, but it's a question that I think we all ask, even librarians ask this. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that to get started. Was it your idea or did you get it from someone else? Very, very basic. If this is an original idea, no need for a citation. If this information is coming from someone else, from somewhere else, you probably need the citation. If you're paraphrasing from another work, if it's a direct quotation from another work, if it references ideas that have influenced your work, then all of these things mean it needs a citation. So it doesn't just have to be a direct quote. It's anytime you're referencing another idea or paraphrasing another work. But common knowledge, on the other hand, does not need a citation. And I think this is where things get a little bit murky, like what is common knowledge? So that's a little bit something we're going to go over with these questions. 3 scenarios, do you need a citation? Use the chat and let me know. The majority of people in this classroom, in the Zoom room, have a birthday in December. Do you think that this statement would need a citation? In the chat, can you say yes or no? And we're asking if this statement would need a citation. And the answer is yes. Everyone said yes. This is the first time I've ever done this that everyone said yes, which is pretty incredible. Most people think, no, this isn't something that you would like read in an article and need to cite. But yes, this statement needs a citation. This is something you would need to investigate. You would need to ask the other people in the class or find out in a sort of roundabout way when people's birthday were. So this does need a citation. The next one is Serena Williams won the last tennis tournament with scores of 7-5 and 6-3. Do you need a citation for this? You would need a citation for this. This is something that you would need to find the source and get this information from. Did you see this on ESPN? Did you read it on the news somewhere or see it on Twitter? It's not something you would just know as in common knowledge. You would definitely need a citation if you included this. And the last example is Batman and Superman are in comic books. No. Everyone's saying no. Everyone, y'all are so smart. You would not need a citation for this. This is common knowledge. And this is actually a great example of common knowledge that Batman, Superman, these huge pop culture characters are in comic books. It's not something that would need a direct citation. It's common knowledge. So when you're thinking about, does this need a citation, I always think this is a great example to think of. If it's something like this, it does not need a citation. But if it is something more specific, something that would need to be proven in a way, it will need a citation. So there are two forms of citations when we talk about citations and citation management. There is your reference page, which is the last page after your paper with all of your full citations, and there are also in-text citations. So every single item on your reference page is going to have a corresponding in-text citation, and an in-text citation should have a full citation on your reference page. So first, we're going to talk about in-text citations. In-text citations in APA, they follow the author date method. If you are directly quoting a work, you'll need to include the author, the publication year, and the page from which you are quoting. Use the term P period for one page and P period if the quote spans multiple pages. If you're paraphrasing a work, you don't need to include the page number, though it is encouraged. The more information you can include in citation, even an in-text citation, the better. It's gonna legitimize your work and allow your readers to more easily find your sources. So we included some examples of what that author date method in text will look like. According to Jones, 1998, Space Jam is the single most important film in the history of cinema. And you have the page number at the end there. So even though APA prescribes that you need author, date, page number, you can see you have a little bit of flexibility of how those pieces of information are presented. And it really depends on how your paper is flowing and presenting them different ways. She states, Space Jam is a testament to the power of basketball and Bugs Bunny, Jones, 1998, page 199. And she goes on to explain why she believes that statement is true. Then the next one is just a paraphrase, no page number. The last one has the PP because it's using a span of pages. So in-text citations for multiple authors. If you have an in-text citation with two authors, it will be the same, just the two authors and the date. You can use and in the text, but within the parentheses, you'll want to use an ampersand. Ampersands are also used on the reference page. If you have an in-text citation with more than two authors, you can use the et al. Method. This is new. It used to be more than 5 authors. So this is going to allow you to abbreviate your citations better. An in-text citation with multiple authors that have some overlap. Often if you're looking at theories, papers, and really specific research areas, you're going to see authors that have multiple papers or monographs written in that area. So you'll want to definitely write out all of the authors at once. You wouldn't want to have Jones et al. 2017 if you're referring to two different sources. But you could abbreviate to the differentiating author in the list that authors are listed. So in-text citations when citing multiple works. You can have an in-text citation with one author, an in-text citation with more than one author. We'll place the citations in alphabetical order of the first author separated by a semicolon. You often in literature reviews, you're sort of like providing a summary of the literature which was reviewed in that area. So making like a blanket statement and referencing multiple papers you would do them in alphabetical order. So educational psychology is the most researched field involved human learning. Baggins 2019, Bombadil and Goldberry 2020, Smeagol and Shelob 2000. And an in-text citation, if one author is the most directly relevant, you can insert a phrase such as see also for the secondary authors, but want to make sure that you're putting the most relevant author first and having the see also include the other authors that are secondary. To make an in-text citation, sorry, just want to make sure. To make an in-text citation, you're really going to have to make sure you have the following source information. You'll want to make sure you know the author and the page number and the date published. And so we sort of went through, and this is sort of how the worksheet is going to work as well. So it's a little preview, but we have all the information there. So motivation refers broadly to what people desire, what they choose to do, and what they commit to do. And that would be Keller, 2010, page 3. In the second example, we see blank states, and then the quote is there. And so in that one, we would have the author, Keller, the date, 2010, with the page number at the end. The last one is a paraphrase. So we would put author date at the end of the paraphrase statement. Here we have Gagne and Briggs on page 16 from 1979. The first example is a direct quote, so we would need to include all 3 pieces of that information. The second example is a paraphrase quote. So here we just have the authors and then the date, not a requirement to include the page number. A block quotation. We always get questions about block quotation. We're going to start out and say block quotations are not highly recommended, especially for scholarly academic papers. It is better to paraphrase than to use a lengthy quotation. Putting these thoughts into your own words and citing using your own words is usually a better avenue, but there are times where block quotations are important and add to the thesis, to the argument. So if you're going to use a block quotation, there are special requirements. If a quotation is 40 words or more, that's when you'll use a block quote. You'll indent the quotation 1/2 inch. Will double space the blocked quotation. You will do not put punctuation after the closing parentheses. So this always looks super weird to me. At the end is an example with the Guthrie et al. And you can see after P306, there is no punctuation after that. And with a block quotation, there is no reason to include quotation marks. So it just works very differently than the other quotations. Indirect references. If you use a source that was cited in another source, so like a secondary source, so you're reading this fantastic article, totally relevant to your research, but you see it referencing another source that, wow, I really want to use this quote. You really need to name the original source in the text. You can list the secondary source in your reference list, and include it in your parenthetical citation preceded by the words as cited in. So as John Dewey said, action is the test of comprehension. This isn't simply another way of saying that learning by doing is a better way to learn than by listening, as cited in Wax 2011, P194. So here you're actually naming the original source, John Dewey, but you are making sure and differentiating this was cited in a different work. Quoting things that do not have a page number. You want to provide readers with a way to locate the quote. So our suggestion as librarians is a heading, a section name, a paragraph number. Those things are great. Whatever identifying information you can provide so your reader can find that quote. So here's an example from the CDC 2017, and we cited the "What can you do" section. Listing your sources. In APA, the citations for each source you have made in an in-text citation will be listed at the end of your paper on a separate page titled References. So references, you may have used bibliography with some other styles. Some basics about your reference page. You're going to list your sources in alphabetical order according to the last name of the author of each work. You will double space the entries and use hanging indents. This is the same sort of format that we've been using forever. And make sure you want to adhere to the proper citation format for each source. So the source type is really, really important in figuring out how you want to cite that source. So authors, you'll use the surname followed by the author's initial, author, comma, A period, A period. If the author gives names that are hyphenated, maintain the hyphen between the initials. So here's an example where you would put to A-J. Use commas to separate suffixes such as junior, the third, and there's an example as well. Write the surname exactly how it appears. Included hyphenating surnames and two-part surnames. So you wouldn't want to abbreviate that. Names, proper names, exactly how they appear. If the author is listed, move the title of the work to the author position, include that in the alphabetical list, but do not use anonymous as the author unless the work is actually signed as anonymous. APA citation format for books. Here is the basic book format. Pretty much the exact same as it has been, except no need to put the publisher location. So the author, the year of publication, title of work, and you also want to capitalize the letter for the subtitle, the first letter, but APA format titles of work, you only capitalize the first words, and then the publisher. So here is a very basic example of what that would look like. An edited book, which we see lots of in higher education and for academic and scholarly titles. Use the ampersand to connect two authors. You would put EDS period as showing that those are the editors. An edition other than the first. List the authors, the year, the title of the work, and you can see the title is italicized, but then in parentheses within the title, you would put 5th ED period with parentheses and not italicized. Note, authors are listed in the last name initials format. Only proper nouns and the first word in a title and/or subtitle will be capitalized for books. So then electronic resources. One of the most common formats you're going to be using is for an online periodical, an online journal article. So here you have the authors listed with the year, the title of the article, which is not italicized, the title of the periodical, italicized, volume number, italicized, issue number in parentheses, not italicized, with the pages, the page range, and then just simply the DOI URL if applicable, if you have the DOI URL. An article from a database. If articles from a library database are easily located, you do not need to provide the database information such as the DOI or a URL unless it's available and you are told to include it. So this is another thing that it's important to check with your instructors about the specific instructions with this. I always say DOI URLs are pretty pretty easy to find for when you're searching in a database. So I think it's a best practice to include it so it's even easier to locate, but it's not a requirement if you're using a database, and it's just something that's relatively easy to find, relatively. So here we have something from the new criterion where you can see it's just the author, date, title, the journal title, the volume number, the issue number, the page range. What about a newspaper article found online? Here you do the author, year, month, day, because you have the day in a newspaper article, the title of the article, title of the newspaper. No need to put the retrieve from, you would just put the URL. So there we have something from the Boston Globe, a good example. And then what about a non-periodical web document or report? I see the report format is commonly used in social work research. So here you just have the date of publication, title of document, website, and then the web address. So you're having the authors, the day, if you have the day, then you want to include that information, the title, which website it was from, so it's from NPR, and then you would have the NPR URL. So it looks very, very similar to the way a newspaper online article would look. What about web page on a website with a retrieval date? The Census Bureau, no date. A lot of government information, it doesn't have a specific date listed. So with the US and world population clock, you would want to make sure you put the retrieved on this date. Online lecture notes and presentation slides. Here is an example of the author, date, title of the presentation. In those little square brackets, what sort of content is this? This is a PowerPoint slide retrieved from Canvas. Note, only include a retrieve by date if site is likely to change. That's one reason why we included this US and rural population clock example, because that information is continually changing. So you want to make sure and say that, well, this is back from January, so it's going to be a little different now. There are no periods following URLs. So anytime you're using an online format and including a URL, there's no need to put a period after a URL. If you can't find the date of the publication, use in period, D period, no date after the author's last name. If you can't find any author information, begin with title of work. I always include a caveat whenever I do these workshops that if you're having a lot of trouble finding all the information to properly cite a source, it may be a sign that this source is maybe not as reputable as it should be. And I would definitely go back to evaluating whether this is a source that should be used in a scholarly paper. Okay, so now it's time to do the worksheet. Trying something a little new and including an activity so you can work through some of the information that we just went through. This is a bit.ly link, bit.ly/APA7, capital W for worksheet, and it will open in Google Drive. And when you open it in Google Drive, you should be able to either download it as a Word document or open it this way, open with, and open it into Google Docs. So pretty much we're gonna provide, we wanna work through some of the questions that we worked through before in the worksheet. And so I'm actually going to put myself on mute and allow you to spend a little time working through these citations, and we'll come back in, we'll just say 4 minutes, so at 12:38, and work through these answers together. And feel free to use the chat at this time too if you have any questions so far. Alrighty, we're gonna come back together. I hope everyone got a chance to work through the worksheet a little bit, but it's also totally fine if you didn't. And so we're going to go right to the spot the errors in the citation format. We went over the Gagne and Briggs a little bit earlier. And so if you can go to the part that is spot the errors in the citations, and I'm hoping that people will use the chat to help me spot the errors and we can work through it together. So here we have a citation from an online journal article, an online periodical. So the first bulleted citation is Ellen Filestock 2018, Bilingual Education for Young Children, Review of the Effects and Consequences. You see it out there. Can anyone in the chat tell me what they see as some of the errors in that citation? What is one of the problems you spotted? Capitalization in the title. Yes, thank you, Marie. That's true. They capitalized every single word in the title. For APA citations, you would only capitalize the first word and the word after the subtitle. Yes. Anyone else spot any other errors with this first one? Right, the DOI. This one has the DOI number, but it does not have it as the DOI URL, which is now the correct way that you would present a DOI in a citation. That's another error, exactly. The name, including the full name. Sorry. The full name in the citation, and having, instead of having the last name and then only the first initial. Right. The page number. The page number right now, you can see actually that it has periods between the title of the periodical, the volume, the issue number, and the page number. There's supposed to be comments, and you would need those in there. You can also see that the issue number is in the square brackets and not in the parentheses. And I see the question, would you write the word volume? So it actually does not look that like this is a work that is a multiple volume work based on the citation. This would just be, you would need to put the volume number here. So you can see in the second example where everything is fixed, you have the author's name with the year, the title written where only the first word is capitalized, and after the subtitle, you have the title of the journal, then comma, the volume number, the issue number in parentheses, the page number name, and I see there now, you don't need to put the PP or the P within the full citation on your references page. That's only in the in-text citation. And then the DOI URL. And so for the second example, we have Boyd, Bryan, Nabokov, Time and Timelessness. Can anyone tell me what they see as an issue with this this example, the third bullet? Right, they used quotations around the title, and that is definitely not the way that APA does titles. Any other errors we see in this? Right. So the Martin Hagland, they did not capitalize that even though it's a proper name. So even though you use the lowercase in the APA citations, you would always want to capitalize a proper name no matter what. Right, they did not italicize the volume number in this. So we needed to italicize the volume number. And yes, they used the P for the page range, which is not necessary in the references list. They also put the year at the end, yep, at the end of the reference, which is, yep, that's not accurate. You always want to do author date. So it should have been right at the front. Great, yeah, everyone got them, perfect. We recognize everyone. So in the last example, you can see that citation corrected, the Boyd B, 2006, the title of the article with the journal title, the volume number, the issue number, and then the page range. Great work, everyone. So here, we provided you the full bibliographic information, all the information you would need to do a citation, and want to put a citation together yourself. So here is the basic format for a online citation from a periodical. Author with the surname, first initial, year, title of the article, title of the periodical, volume number, issue number, pages with the DOI link. And almost all of our databases that you're using through the FSU Libraries will provide you all of this information right from sort of like the landing page for our online articles, making it really easy for you to have all the information you need to make the citation. And the correct citation for this would look like this. So yeah, for those of you that worked through the citation, worked through the worksheet, hopefully yours was very close to the citation. If you made a couple errors, that's okay. One of the best ways to learn citations is to work through trying to do them by hand. It also is really, really helpful if you are using a citation management tool like Zotero, which often makes errors in their auto-generated citation, to be able to recognize those errors yourself after you work through some of these. So this is a good one because you can see that French and Italian still capitalized. You're capitalizing all of the words in the title of the journal. So hopefully everyone was able to look pretty similar to this. So sort of closing it off today, between the notable differences between the style APA 6 and APA 7. Student papers do not use a running head, only professional publications, and you don't need to write running head on any pages anymore. What we've been figuring out as we've been working through this is just making it a lot easier, especially for Microsoft Word users who are having to do some funky things with the formatting features. So hopefully you should have an easier time writing your papers and doing your citations and formatting if you're using Word, more flexibility with font choices. Another thing that I hadn't mentioned yet is this style manual is allowing the singular they or their as a gender neutral pronoun. So we're seeing changes like that being integrated into these works as well, which is fantastic since we're using this language more and more in modern life. I highly suggest you go either to Purdue OWL or another reputable source and read through some of the other changes, especially as you're working through your first research papers. This is going to be a fantastic resource to you. Check with your professors to see, are they using the APA 7 manual or the APA 6 manual? We're still seeing the transition happen even here in the College of Social Work. But as you become more and more familiar with APA 7, I'm sure that it's going to become second nature to you all. And once again, I am happy to be a resource to all of you as you work on this and as you do all of your research and your work here at the College of Social Work or wherever else. So here's my name, here is my email, and I did create a bit.ly for these slides while we were talking since I had some questions about that. I'm putting those in the chat right now. So do you know if there's a search function in the digital version of the APA manual through VitalSource or Redshelf? That is a great question. Thank you, Jane. So by the way, this is somewhat unrelated, but there's tons of publishers have opened up temporary access to materials due to COVID and the pandemic and just general access issues to print collections. And I very much appreciate, Marie, you asking about Vital Source or Red Shelf. These are two of the temporary resources that have opened up to students. If you are unfamiliar with these, they are fantastic resources. And I have found many of the social work textbooks are available through Vital Source specifically, and I do think they also have the APA manual. So Vital Source and Red Shelf both have searching capabilities to search through ebooks. Many of our library databases and our ebooks platforms also have searching capabilities. So I do believe you're going to be able to search through and find the citations you need. And thank you, Jane, for coming, and thank you, everyone, for coming. I really appreciate you being part of this workshop. I'm more than happy to help if you ever have specific questions. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll make sure the recording is available, the slides are available, and feel free to contact me if you need anything else.